Khabib Abdulmanapovich Nurmagomedov, born the 20th of September 1988, is a Russian former professional mixed martial artist who competed in the lightweight division of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC. He was the longest reigning UFC Lightweight Champion ever, having held the title from April 2018 to March 2021. With 29 wins and no losses, he retired with an undefeated record. Nurmagomedov is widely considered to be among the greatest mixed martial artists of all time and was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame on June 30, 2022. A two-time world champion in combat sambo, Nurmagomedov has a background in wrestling, judo, and sambo. Nurmagomedov was ranked number 1 in the UFC men's pound-for-pound rankings at the time of his retirement until being removed following his title vacation in March 2021. Fight Matrix ranks him as the number 1 lightweight of all time. In 2019, Forbes ranked Nurmagomedov as the number 1 most successful Russian athlete. Nurmagomedov also topped the list of the 40 most successful Russian show business and sports personalities under 40. Nurmagomedov is a mixed martial arts trainer and promoter, known for founding Eagles MMA and promoting the Eagle Fighting Championship, EFC. After retirement, he transitioned to being a full-time coach and cornerman before retiring from the sport completely in January 2023. Early life, Khabib Abdulmanapovich Nurmagomedov was born to an Avar family on the 20th of September 1988 in the village of Sildi in the Trudadinsky district of the Dagestan ASSR, an autonomous republic within the Russian SFSR, Soviet Union. He has an older brother, Magomed, and younger sister, Amina. His father's family had moved from Sildi to Kuraval, where his father converted the ground floor of their 2-story building into a gym. Nurmagomedov grew up in the household with his siblings and cousins. His interest in martial arts began when watching students training at the gym. Khabib's training as a child included wrestling a bear when he was 9 years old. As is common with many children in Dagestan, he began wrestling from an early age. He started at the age of 8 under the tutelage of his father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. A decorated athlete and a veteran of the Soviet Army, Abdulmanap had also wrestled from an early age before undergoing training in judo and sambo in the military. Abdulmanap dedicated his life to coaching the youth in Dagestan in hopes of offering an alternative to the Islamic extremism common to the region. In 2001, his family moved to Makhachkala, the capital of Dagestan, where he trained in wrestling from the age of 12 and judo from 15. He resumed training in combat sambo under his father at 17. According to Nurmagomedov, the transition from wrestling to judo was difficult, but his father wanted him to get used to competing in a GI jacket. Abdulmanap was a senior coach for the combat sambo national team in the Republic of Dagestan, training several athletes in sambo in Makhachkala, Russia. Nurmagomedov frequently got into street fights in his youth before focusing his attention on mixed martial arts. Khabib said that, along with his father, 3 athletes who inspired him were the American boxers Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson and the Brazilian footballer Ronaldo Nazario. He described Fedor Emelianenko, Mauricio Rua, and Georges St-Pierre as his favorite MMA fighters at the time. Mixed martial arts career. Early career Nurmagomedov made his professional MMA debut in September 2008, compiling 4 wins in under a month. On the 11th of October, he became the inaugural Atrium Cup tournament champion, having defeated his 3 opponents at the Moscow event. Over the next 3 years, he went undefeated, finishing 11 out of 12 opponents. These included a first-round armbar finish of future Bellator title challenger Shabulat Shamhalayev, which marked his M1 global debut. A 16-0 record in the regional circuits of Russia and Ukraine generated interest from the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, in signing Nurmagomedov. Later, Nurmagomedov's father revealed in an interview that due to a contract dispute with Pro FC, they had 11 court cases contesting the legitimacy of Nurmagomedov's UFC contract. After losing 6 and winning 5 cases, they reached an agreement and Khabib was able to continue his career. Ultimate Fighting Championship, Early UFC Fights, and Championship Pursuits. In late 2011, Nurmagomedov signed a 6-fight deal to compete in the UFC's lightweight division. In his UFC debut on the 20th of January 2012 at UFC on FX1, Nurmagomedov defeated Kamal Shaloris via submission in the 3rd round. Nurmagomedov next defeated Gleison Tibau on the 7th of July 2012 at UFC 148 via unanimous decision, with judges scoring the fight 30-27. This victory marked the fight in which he trained at the American Kickboxing Academy. Nurmagomedov's next fight was against Thiago Tavares on the 19th of January 2013 at UFC on FX7. He won via KO in the 1st round. After the fight, Tavares tested positive for drostanolone, an anabolic steroid, and received a 9-month suspension. Nurmagomedov defeated Abel Trujillo on the 25th of May 2013 at UFC 160 via unanimous decision, with all 3 judges scoring the fight 30-27. At the weigh-ins, Nurmagomedov came in over the permitted limit, weighing in at 158.5 pounds. He was given 2 hours to cut to the lightweight maximum of 156 pounds, but elected instead to surrender a percentage of his fight purse to Trujillo, and the bout was contested at a catchweight. In the course of the fight, Nurmagomedov set a new UFC record for the most takedowns in a single fight, with 21 successful takedowns out of 28 attempts. In his 5th UFC fight, on the 21st of September 2013 at UFC 165, Nurmagomedov faced Pat Healy. He dominated the fight and won via unanimous decision, with all 3 judges scoring the fight 30-27. Attending his first post-event press conference, UFC President Dana White praised the relative newcomer, stating, "That slam, when he just scoops him up and slams him, Matt Hughes style, that reminded me of the old Matt Hughes, where he would run a guy across the octagon and slam him. The kid is exciting. We're probably going to do big things with this kid." In December, Nurmagomedov challenged Gilbert Melendez on social media, with the two then expected to face off at UFC 170 on the 22nd of February 2014. However, the bout was canceled for undisclosed reasons, and Melendez was replaced by Nate Diaz. However, the matchup was canceled as Diaz turned the bout down. Nurmagomedov expressed his disappointment, appearing on the MMA Hour. "If they say that they're willing to fight the best, they should fight the best. If they want, I'll take them both at once in the cage." Nurmagomedov next faced the former UFC Lightweight Champion Rafael dos Anjos on the 19th of April 2014 at UFC on Fox 11. Nurmagomedov dominated the fight and won via unanimous decision, with all 3 judges scoring the fight 30-27. Nurmagomedov was briefly linked to a bout with Donald Cerrone on the 27th of September 2014 at UFC 178. However, the pairing was quickly scrapped after it was revealed that Nurmagomedov had suffered a knee injury. He was later expected to face Cerrone on the 23rd of May 2015 at UFC 187. However, Nurmagomedov pulled out of the bout on the 30th of April due to a recurring knee injury and was replaced by John Makdessi. Nurmagomedov was expected to face Tony Ferguson on the 11th of December 2015 at the Ultimate Fighter 22 finale. However, Nurmagomedov pulled out of the fight in late October, citing another injury, and was replaced by Edson Barboza. Nurmagomedov and his father, Abdulmanapovich, in 2016, the bout with Ferguson was rescheduled for the 16th of April 2016 at UFC on Fox 19. However, on the 5th of April, Ferguson pulled out of the bout due to a lung issue. Ferguson was replaced by promotional newcomer Daryl Horcher at a catchweight of 160 lb. Nurmagomedov won the one-sided fight by TKO in the 2nd round. In September, Nurmagomedov signed 2 contracts for a title shot against the reigning UFC Lightweight Champion Eddie Alvarez on either the UFC 205 or the UFC 206 fight card, with Dana White confirming the bout for UFC 205. However, on the 26th of September, the UFC announced that Alvarez would instead be defending the title against Conor McGregor. Nurmagomedov voiced his displeasure on social media, calling Alvarez a bullshit champ for refusing the fight and opting for a bout with McGregor instead, accusing the UFC of being a freak show. In lieu of a title shot, Nurmagomedov next faced Michael Johnson on the 12th of November 2016 at UFC 205. Nurmagomedov dominated the fight and was heard telling Dana White to give him a title shot as he mauled Johnson, winning via submission in the third round. The bout with Ferguson was scheduled for a third time at UFC 209 on the 4th of March 2017 for the interim lightweight championship. Nurmagomedov, however, fell ill because of a botched weight cut, and the bout was canceled as a result. Nurmagomedov faced Edson Barboza on the 30th of December 2017 at UFC 219. Nurmagomedov dominated all 3 rounds, taking Barboza down repeatedly and dominating the fight with ground and pound. He won the fight by unanimous decision with scores of 30-25, 30-25, and 30-24. This win also earned him his first performance of the night bonus. UFC Lightweight Champion Nurmagomedov versus Yakinta Minister of Sport Pavel Kolobkov left congratulating Nurmagomedov on winning the UFC Lightweight Championship. A bout with Ferguson had been scheduled for the 4th time and was expected to take place on the 7th of April 2018 at UFC 223. However, on the 1st of April 2018, it was reported that Ferguson had injured his knee and was to be replaced by Max Holloway. On the 6th of April, Holloway was pulled from the fight after the New York State Athletic Commission, NYSAC, declared him unfit to compete due to extreme weight cutting and replaced by Al Iaquinta. Iaquinta's inclusion in the fight was controversial. The UFC's first choice to replace Holloway, Anthony Pettis, weighed in 0.2 pounds over the championship limit of 155 pounds and did not choose to reweigh. And its second choice, Paul Felder, was rejected by NYSAC because he was not in the UFC's rankings at the time of the fight. Only Nurmagomedov was eligible to win the championship, as Iaquinta also weighed in 0.2 pounds over the championship weight limit. Nurmagomedov dominated the fight and won via unanimous decision, with scores of 50-44, 50-43, and 50-43, and became the UFC lightweight champion. Nurmagomedov versus McGregor. Nurmagomedov and his father meeting Russian President Vladimir Putin 4 days after his win against McGregor. On Friday, the 3rd of August 2018, the UFC announced that Nurmagomedov would make his first defense of his lightweight title against Conor McGregor at UFC 229 on October 6th in Las Vegas. In the fight, Nurmagomedov won the first 2 rounds, but lost the 3rd round to McGregor. It was the first time Nurmagomedov lost a round in his UFC career. He managed to defeat McGregor in the 4th round via submission. After the contest, Nurmagomedov scaled the octagon and tried to attack McGregor's teammate Dylan Dennis, which resulted in a brawl between the 2 teams. After the bout against the Irishman, Khabib improved his record to 27-0, which was then the longest win streak in UFC history. The event drew 2.4 million pay-per-view buys, the most ever for an MMA event. Incident at UFC 229. On the 6th of October 2018, following his victory over Conor McGregor at UFC 229, Nurmagomedov jumped over the octagon fence and charged at McGregor's cornerman, Dylan Dennis. Dennis had reportedly shouted insults at Nurmagomedov. Soon afterwards, McGregor and Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov, Khabib's cousin, attempted to exit the octagon, but a scuffle broke out between them after McGregor punched Abu Bakr, who then punched him back. McGregor was then attacked from behind inside the octagon by 2 of Nurmagomedov's cornermen, Zubaira Tukugov and Esed Emiragayev. Tukugov, a Chechen fighter, was scheduled to fight on the 27th of October 2018 at UFC Fight Night Volkan vs. Smith against Artem Lobov, the McGregor team member who was confronted by Nurmagomedov in April 2018. Tukugov was removed from the card on the 17th of October. Nurmagomedov's payment for the fight was withheld by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, NSAC, as a result, pending an investigation into his actions. He appeared at the post-fight interview and apologized to the NSAC, saying he was provoked by McGregor's trash talk and the UFC 223 bus incident, adding, "You cannot talk about religion. You cannot talk about nation. Guys, you cannot talk about these things. This is very important to me." He later posted on Instagram that he had warned McGregor that he would pay for everything he had done on the 6th of October. Khabib's father, Abdulmanapovich, later said he did not hold a grudge towards McGregor and invited him to Russia to train. The NSAC filed a formal complaint against both Nurmagomedov and McGregor, and on the 24th of October, the NSAC voted to approve a motion to release half of Nurmagomedov's $2 million fight payout immediately. Both Nurmagomedov and McGregor received indefinite bans until an official hearing would determine the disciplinary outcome of the post-fight brawl. On the 29th of January 2019, the NSAC announced a 9-month suspension for Nurmagomedov, retroactive to the 6th of October 2018, and a $500,000 fine. He was eligible to compete again on the 6th of July 2019. McGregor also received a 6-month suspension and $50,000 fine, while Abubakar Nurmagomedov and Zubaira Tukhugov each received 12-month suspensions and fines of $25,000. Khabib Nurmagomedov complained about the NSAC's decisions and stated he no longer wished to compete in the state of Nevada. Nurmagomedov versus Poirier in June 2019, Nurmagomedov signed a new multi-fight contract with the UFC. In the first fight of his new deal, Nurmagomedov made the second defense of his title against interim lightweight champion Dustin Poirier on the 7th of September 2019 in the main event at UFC 242. He won the fight via a rear naked choke submission in the third round. The win unified both titles and earned Nurmagomedov his second Performance of the Night bonus award. He and Poirier swapped shirts after the fight as a show of respect. In his post-fight interview, Nurmagomedov said that he would be selling the shirt Poirier gave him and donating the proceeds to Poirier's charity. The shirt sold for $100,000, and the donation was matched by UFC President Dana White. Nurmagomedov versus Gaethje. Nurmagomedov was scheduled to defend his title against Tony Ferguson on the 18th of April 2020 at UFC 249. This was the 5th time that a fight between the pair had been scheduled, and both fighters were on 12-fight win streaks in the UFC. However, Nurmagomedov was unable to leave Russia because of restricted air travel due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and so was removed from the card. Ferguson instead faced top contender Justin Gaethje for the interim UFC Lightweight Championship at UFC 249, which was postponed to the 9th of May. Gaethje won the fight by 5th-round TKO, thus ending Ferguson's win streak and securing himself a shot at the undisputed title against Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov faced Gaethje in a unification bout on the 24th of October 2020 in the main event at UFC 254. Nurmagomedov won the fight via technical submission with a triangle choke in the second round to defend and reunify the UFC Lightweight Championship. In his post-fight interview, Nurmagomedov announced his retirement from mixed martial arts. He explained that he had promised his mother that he would not continue to fight without his late father. "No way I'm going to come here without my father. It was first time after what happened with my father. When UFC called me about Justin, I talked with my mother 3 days. She doesn't want me to go fight without my father, but I promised her it was going to be my last fight. If I give my word, I have to follow this. It was my last fight here." This win earned him the Performance of the Night award. Daniel Cormier said in an episode of DC and Helwani after the fight that Khabib had said he chose the triangle choke instead of an armbar in order to prevent Gaethje from being injured. Retirement and vacation of the UFC Lightweight Championship despite attempted negotiations to bring him back for one more fight, UFC President Dana White announced on the 19th of March 2021 that he had accepted Nurmagomedov's decision to retire and that the UFC Lightweight Championship had been officially vacated. On the 1st of July 2022, Nurmagomedov was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame on the International Fight Week in Las Vegas. MMA promoter following his retirement, Nurmagomedov purchased the Guerrilla Fighting Championship, GFC, a Russian-based MMA promotion, for $1 million, going on to rename it as the Eagle Fighting Championship, EFC. MMA coach and cornerman. After retiring in October 2020, Nurmagomedov became an active coach with American Kickboxing Academy head coach Javier Mendez. He coached and cornered current UFC Lightweight Champion Islam Makhachev, former UFC Welterweight Champion Belal Muhammad, Zubaira Tukhugov UFC, Tagir Ulanbekov UFC, Gaji Rabadanov Bellator, Islam Mammadov Bellator, Saigid Izaga Kakmayev ONE Championship, and his cousins Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov UFC, Umar Nurmagomedov UFC, and current Bellator lightweight champion Usman Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov was expected to corner Islam Makhachev in a historic title defense against UFC featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 284, but completely retired from MMA in January 2023, including coaching and cornering fighters to focus on his family. Nurmagomedov subsequently returned as a cornerman for Makhachev's third and fourth title defense against Dustin Poirier, UFC 302, and Renato Moicano, UFC 311, respectively, and for Umar Nurmagomedov when he challenged Merab Dvalishvili for the UFC Bantamweight Championship at the latter event. In November 2025, he cornered Makhachev at UFC 322, where he defeated Jack Della Maddalena for the UFC Welterweight Championship. Fighting style, Nurmagomedov employed a wrestling-based style of relentless pressure against his opponents, often described as mauling. Using a variety of wrestling and judo sambo takedowns, he forced his opponents against the cage and locked up their legs and an arm to prevent them from escaping. From this position, he exhausted his opponents by forcing his weight against them and attacked with measured strikes his opponents were often unable to defend. This was one of the many signature styles that he used to deploy to advance towards his finishing move. Throughout his career, 19 of his 29 victories had come by way of either TKO/KO or submission. Former three-time UFC heavyweight champion and two-time UFC light heavyweight champion Randy Couture praised Nurmagomedov as brilliant. MMA commentator Joe Rogan, a black belt in both 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, said of Nurmagomedov, "He's the most terrifying lightweight contender in the world. And he's just on such another level of grappling that the odds of beating him drop significantly after the first minute and a half." UFC referee Herb Dean stated Nurmagomedov constantly talked to his opponents during fights. Personal life. As part of his Dagestani Avar culture, Nurmagomedov frequently wore a papaka hat after fights and during promotional events. As of 2019, Nurmagomedov is a third-year student at the Plekhanov Russian University of Economics. He is an avid football fan and supporter of the clubs Anzhi Makhachkala, Galatasaray, Real Madrid, and Liverpool, as well as the Russia national team. In August 2021, there was speculation that Nurmagomedov had signed a professional football contract with third-tier Russian side Legion Dynamo after he was seen shaking hands with the players and manager. However, a few days later, Nurmagomedov denied he had signed a professional contract, instead saying he is very close to the club and just a fan. Khabib said that, along with his father, three athletes who inspired him were the American boxers Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson and the Brazilian footballer Ronaldo Nazario. He described Fedor Emelianenko, Mauricio Rua, and George St. Pierre as his favorite MMA fighters at the time. He also cites Naqshbandi Sufi Sheikh Imam Shamil as an inspiration. He is the most followed Russian on Instagram, with more than 34 million followers as of December 2022. Coming from the Republic of Dagestan in Russia, Nurmagomedov is the first Muslim to win a UFC title. Nurmagomedov is a Sunni Muslim. In October 2020, The Guardian stated that Nurmagomedov is the second most popular Muslim athlete in the world, behind only the Egyptian footballer Mohamed Salah. Controversies. Throughout his career, Nurmagomedov has become the subject of many controversies, including a long-standing affiliation with Chechnya's leader Ramzan Kadyrov, questionable affiliations with oligarchs, advocacy for increased cultural censorship, and misogynism. He has also been accused of sexism. The Guardian stated that, since his high-profile victory over McGregor, Nurmagomedov has used his influential status to further his ultra-conservative worldview. In 2018, Nurmagomedov advocated a crackdown on nightclubs in his home region of Dagestan and leveled criticism at a rap concert held in Makhachkala, which led to rapper Igor Creed canceling his performances in the region. In 2019, Nurmagomedov spoke out against a play held in Dagestan that featured a scene of a scantily clad woman seducing a man. He described the play as filth, recommended that there be a governmental investigation into its production, and called for those involved to issue a public apology, which allegedly led to the producer of the play receiving threats on social media. In October 2020, Nurmagomedov said of the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, in the wake of the murder of Samuel Paty, "May the Almighty disfigure the face of this creature and all its followers, who, under the slogan of freedom of speech, offend the feelings of more than 1.5 billion Muslim believers. May the Almighty humiliate them in this life and in the next." The post included an image of a boot print over Macron's face. Nurmagomedov added, "We are Muslims. We love our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, more than our mothers, fathers, children, wives, and all other people close to our hearts." Due to his commentary, Nurmagomedov was accused of inciting violence. Nurmagomedov has trained with SC Bazarganova in Kyzylyurt, Dagestan, 2012. K-Dojo, AMA Fight Club in Fairfield, New Jersey, 2012, Mamishev Fight Team in St. Petersburg, 2012, Fight Spirit Team in Kolpino, St. Petersburg, and KHK MMA Team in Bahrain, 2015, which was funded by Bahraini Prince Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa. In 2016, Nurmagomedov co-founded his own team, Eagles MMA, with support from the Dagestani billionaire Ziauddin Magomedov. After Magomedov was arrested on charges of embezzlement in 2018, Nurmagomedov used his post-fight speech at UFC 223 to appeal to Russian President Vladimir Putin for Magomedov's release from jail. Nurmagomedov has also hosted a training seminar at Fight Club Akhmat, which is funded by head of the Chechen Republic Ramzan Kadyrov, who has received criticism for his government's human rights abuses. In 2024, Russian authorities seized Nurmagomedov's bank accounts, accusing him of failing to pay his taxes properly. His Makhachkala-based gym also came under scrutiny for alleged ties to terrorism, with authorities raiding the facility following reports that an individual who had previously trained there was involved in attacks on Christian and Jewish places of worship in Dagestan. Family Nurmagomedov married Patimat in June 2013, and they have 3 children. A daughter born the 1st of June 2015, a son born the 30th of December 2017, and a son born on the 22nd of December 2019. The first son was named Magomed, after Khabib's great-grandfather. Among Nurmagomedov's cousins are fellow UFC fighters Abubakar Nurmagomedov and Umar Nurmagomedov and Bellator fighter Usman Nurmagomedov. In May 2020, Nurmagomedov's father and longtime trainer Abdulmanapovich was placed in a medically induced coma after contracting COVID-19 following a heart surgery. He died on the 3rd of July 2020 at a clinic in Moscow at the age of 57. Awards. In October 2018, Nurmagomedov was made an honorary citizen of Grozny by the mayor of Grozny, Ibrahim Zakriev, after his victory against McGregor at UFC 229. He was also presented with a Mercedes car by Chechnya's head Ramzan Kadyrov, funded from the Ahmad Kadyrov Foundation, and his father Abdulmanapovich was awarded the title of Honored Worker of Physical Culture of the Chechen Republic by Kadyrov. On the 5th of December 2019, Head of the Republic of Dagestan, Vladimir Vasilyev, awarded Nurmagomedov and his father, Abdulmanap, the Order for Services to the Republic of Dagestan for their significant contributions to sports in Dagestan. Championships and accomplishments. Mixed martial arts. Ultimate Fighting Championship. UFC Hall of Fame. Modern Wing, Class of 2022. UFC Lightweight Championship, 1 time. 3 successful title defenses. Tied for the second most title defenses in UFC lightweight division history, 3, with BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar, and Benson Henderson. Tied for the second most consecutive title defenses in UFC lightweight division history, 3, with BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar, and Benson Henderson. Tied for the second most title wins in UFC lightweight division history, 4, with BJ Penn and Benson Henderson. Longest lightweight champion reign in UFC history, 1,077 days. Tied, Islam Makhachev, for most submissions wins in UFC lightweight division title fights. 3. Tied for third most submissions wins in title fights in UFC history, 13, with Ronda Rousey, Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, and Islam Makhachev. Tied for the 5th longest win streak in UFC history, 13. Georges St. Pierre, Max Holloway, John Jones, and Demetrius Johnson. Performance of the night, 3 times, versus Edson Barbosa, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje. Most takedowns in a single UFC fight, UFC 160, 21 takedowns on 28 attempts, 3 rounds, versus Abel Trujillo. Tied for second most consecutive wins in UFC lightweight division history, 12, with second Russian UFC champion after Oleg Taktarov, first Muslim UFC champion, third most control time in UFC lightweight division history, 1 hour, 29 minutes, 8 seconds. 5th highest control time percentage in UFC lightweight division history, 54. 4th most top position time in UFC lightweight division history, 1 hour, 4 minutes, 28 seconds. 3rd most takedowns landed in UFC lightweight division history, 59. UFC Honors Awards. 2019, Fans' Choice Submission of the Year nominee versus Dustin Poirier. 2020, Fans' Choice Submission of the Year winner versus Justin Gaethje. UFC Com Awards 2018, ranked number 3 Fighter of the Year. 2019, ranked number 2 Submission of the Year versus Dustin Poirier. 2020, ranked number 4 Submission of the Year versus Justin Gaethje. M1 Global. M1 Challenge, 2009 selections. Atrium Cup. Pancratian Atrium Cup 2008 tournament winner. Other MMA awards selected. 2010's number 2 ranked fighter of the decade, MMA fighting. 2010's number 5 ranked fighter of the decade, BJ Penn. 2010's lightweight fighter of the decade, The Athletic, Bloody Elbow. 2013 breakthrough fighter of the year, Sherdog. 2016 beatdown of the year, UFC 205 versus Michael Johnson, Sherdog. 2016 comeback fighter of the year, Sherdog. 2020 submission of the year versus Justin Gaethje at UFC 254, ESPN, Bleacher Report, MMA Succa, Cageside Press. 2022 Coach of the Year, MMA Junkie. And many more recognitions across outlets for Fighter of the Year, Breakthrough Fighter, etc. Sambo. Combat Sambo Federation of Russia. 2009 Russian Combat Sambo Championships, minus 74 kilograms, gold medalist. World Combat Sambo Federation. 2009 World Combat Sambo Championships, minus 74 kilograms, gold medalist. 2010 World Combat Sambo Championships, minus 82 kilograms, gold medalist. ARB, Army Hand-to-Hand Combat. Russian Union of Martial Arts. European Champion of Army Hand-to-Hand Combat. Pancratian International Pancratian Federation, European Pancratian Champion, Grappling North American Grappling Association, World Championship 2012, Men's No-Gi Expert Welterweight Champion, 2012 ADCC Rules No-Gi Expert Welterweight Champion.